Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Jared Brandon.
Hey, it's me, Todd Novak, and on the line, calling all the way from someplace off the coast of Australia called Tasmania is
Jon Parsons of Jon Parsons Guitar Workshop, home of J. Parsons Guitars.
excellent. And specifically, you're in the area of
Launceston, so the north part of Tasmania.
Longthurston.
Launceston. Ceston with a
Seston.
Launceston.
Yeah, like Celestian, but Seston.
Yeah, this is going to be the most fun ever.
Cool.
Now, I will say, everybody out there, that I had a preliminary call with John and asked him to forgive our ludicrous fascination with the idea that Tasmania is only a place referenced to us here as things in cartoons.
That's right.
It's like you could not be farther away from us right now, but here you are, so close.
That's
so
right.
close.
Yep.
So we're going to talk to John about his awesome guitar making and the guitars that he makes and what inspires him and all those great things. But first, as you know, we're going to take care of a few little things of business. We want to make sure that we let you know that we are now on patreon.com, and we would greatly appreciate your support. We're at patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs. You can search anywhere on Patreon, and I'm sure you will find us. You know, we are trying to make sure that we don't have to put ads on the show. We're getting to the point where we're, trying to ratchet things up a little bit, and we want to keep it ad-free for you, and we super duper appreciate it. That's not really great English right there, but you will forgive me, I'm sure. So anyhow, that's the business end of things. Let's discuss what we did this week in Guitar World stuff.
I can't wait.
Not Guitar World, the Guitar World, because that's a copyright thing, and I don't want to go there. But in our own guitar worlds. All right, Jared, hit me.
Okay, so I talked about the Harmony Meteor guitar that I bought for Meteor that I bought for a couple $100.
Yeah.
And it came with some DiMarzio pickups. The double cream, they're really old and vintage, and people pay a little extra for the old vintage ones. So I sold them on the old Reverb, and
already?
Yeah, for like what,
it doesn't matter how much.
125
but
or something.
You're going
like
to tell us anyway.
Yeah. So
okay.
I got $75 into this guitar, this Meteor. Big old jazz body. It's a beautiful guitar. It's got some scratch and nicks or whatever, but hey, I got Tony's Bigsby from him, put that on, and I also built some pickups for it. I built a Charlie Christian style in the neck, and I built a P90 for the bridge, although I shortened up that P90 and dressed it up to look more like a gold foil. So it sounds really good in the bridge and really differently good in the neck. So I'm really happy.
Differently good.
Yeah, differently good. It just really catches a lot of the natural tone of the body because it doesn't have very many windings. The pickup doesn't, but it has a lot of magnification because there's a little more magnet power than the smaller humbucker version that I make because I had more room, and it's a hollow body. So it's an amazing sound. I'm still kind of playing around with it, and I ordered some larger gauge strings for it I'm going to put on.
Is that a feedback beast, I imagine, huh?
No.
What?
Nope. It's not feedback.
Because it's a little winding?
Maybe because I haven't really gone up to the amp with it.
Yeah, if you're anywhere near the amp, it's like,
No, not yet. It's been fairly loud, too.
Put a Chewbacca growl in there.
I could.
I might do that actually.
Thing sounds amazing. So I'm really happy with it, and I can't wait to put a picture on it on the Facebook page.
Yeah, awesome.
So
new pickups in the big jazz box.
Yep, I'm really, really happy. I can't believe it.
Cool. Now you just got to learn how to play guitar.
That's all I got to do.
Awesome.
I'll give you a call.
Yeah, John, what do you have going on this week?
It's actually been a pretty productive week. So it was assembly time for me. I had 3 guitars at that stage, ready to be put together and wired up and strung up. So that's what I did.
Awesome. Did you encounter any new problems or obstacles that you had to overcome? No. That's actually pretty good. Honest. You're like, no, I'm actually really good at this. I don't have those anymore.
Nothing out of the ordinary, right?
Yeah.
The most streamlined assembly I've come across. Although I did discover that I don't know how to string up a Mustang bridge properly.
Really?
Yeah. Until I figured it out and then did it properly.
So I've uncovered the soft underbelly of Jon Parsons' guitar workshop.
My one weakness.
Nice.
Well, it was a weakness. Now I know.
So I did an unboxing on Instagram, and I'm sure that the people that were watching there had to have been a few that were maybe mildly let down, I think, because it wasn't a shiny new guitar and it wasn't an awesome pedal. But I got the box that has a big sticker from the Chicago Music Exchange on the front, and I opened it up and it was a power supply, which it was exciting for me because I really needed a new power supply. I got the True Tone One Spot Pro S7, super sexy name, and it's 7 isolated outputs. With a cool switch on the bottom, so you can switch out a couple from 18 volt or 12 volt. So it's pretty versatile, and it's loaded. It's got all the cables and everything with it. It's got mounting brackets for a pedal train that come with it, which is really cool. It's got a whole bunch of power cables and converter plugs, and it was great. So I'm excited about that because the reason that I got a new power supply is because I suffer from sometimes being too cheap. I want lots of stuff, but I don't have the lots of money to buy the lots of stuff. So sometimes I have to skimp. And when I was building out the latest pedal board, I did the skimp, and I'm like, power supplies. There are things that I don't know I just don't know a ton about. Had I done more homework, had I invested a little bit more, I wouldn't have had the problems I was having with the one that I got, which said it has isolated outputs, but in fact doesn't. It kind of does, in the fact that I watched a video and they opened it up and they're like, it has a what they call the bleed on it, on the circuit board, which I have to trust them that I'm not a circuit board genius, but
me either.
Yeah. So essentially on the forum, they're like, yep, that's not truly isolated. I wasn't doing it for snobbery fact, it's sort of like, well, if it's not truly isolated, then I won't have it on that. That's right. Wasn't that at all. It was, the fact that I was playing, and in the middle of our practice set, my power dropped to like half, and everybody's sitting there wiggling all the wires and everything, and I'm like, it's not a loose cable. I triple checked that before, and then so we went straight into my amp, full power. So I was like, well, okay, either it's a cable, and I'm not going to sit here and go through 12 cables right now to figure this out. Or it's the power supply. And I knew that I had kind of cheaped out on the power supply. So I was like, you know what? Regardless if it's a cable or not, I should just step up my power supply and have a good power supply. But I don't like shelling out money on things that that don't do cool things. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yep.
Like, oh wow, awesome! I'm going to spend $75 on a tuner.
Yeah,
You know,
how do you
I don't want to do
brag?
that.
How do you brag about a power supply?
Well, it feels like, oh gosh, it feels like it hurts because you're spending money on something that, like a buffer or something, is like, okay, fine, here, have my money, no awesome effect thing.
Right.
So anyway, so I guess the cool effect is that my guitar will actually sound fully powered, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, you won't break down in the middle of a performance.
No, but it's really weird because we did a show recently and we've got video of it. And when I was on stage, I could have sworn, I was like, did I just step on something? What's going on? Did they mess up? Is the PA off? Like, is my monitor not working? And as I was watching the video, I could hear my power drop out by like half, about 3/4 of the way through the set. So I was super bugged by that. And at the time, I didn't know what it was, and I couldn't go back and, try to determine what it was because things change. I've added things to the board. I've actually gone into the amp and had that kind of, reworked a little bit. And so it could have been 100 different things. So when I heard it in the practice this time, I was like, right, I'm fixing this immediately. So I have. And now I've got it. So anyways, I put up a link on the Facebook group associated with this. And there's a reason that I chose this one, and that video link was the reason. So I encourage you guys to check it out if you have any questions about that. I'm actually trying really hard to get True Tone on as a guest. But if they don't and some other awesome power supplier wants to talk with us, I'm open.
More power to them.
Nice. I think it's kind of one of the I say this often, but the black arts, there are a few things in the guitar world that I feel are black arts. Power supply is one of them, because you're like, what? It's a plug. I plug things into it. Why is it $200?
I know.
I
know. I feel the same way. I remember being at a guitar show down in Texas, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, the Dallas show, and this guy had this power strip, and it was special because I don't even remember what it did exactly, but it was designed for your rig, and it was like a couple of $100. And I'm like, man, I mean, that's a lot of money just for a power thing. And you turn the switch on and off once, once before you're done. And then when you're done, you turn it off and put it in your gearbox, in your gear bag. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, I would love to be able to dispel that myth. I think another big one that we've called out is speakers, and we're working on hooking up the right interview for that. So we can I'd like to have as unbiased of a conversation as I can about these things, not just, hawk your product, but like,
right.
let's learn the guitar, lovers out there a few things.
The speaker cloth really changed the tone.
Totally.
It does. Anyhow, so that was my super exciting thing. And fortunately, I didn't have to spend $200 on it. This particular one was $119, and super like the ratings for this thing are through the roof, and it actually has some very compelling technology behind it, and it was a cheap price. So, I mean, can't
to
lose.
Me, that's worth knowing that your stuff's not going to fail. I mean, yeah, totally.
Yep.
Done.
Could have been some of my hand-built pedals, but probably not. Anyhow, oh my gosh, it's time for
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the floor.
Yep, it's 4 on the floor, and Jon Parsons is going to tell us what his 4 must-have pedals are. And I'm really curious to hear what these are, because, again, Tasmania is Mars, so I don't know how they have guitar pedals there, which is a really stupid, ignorant thing for me to say, but I'm saying it for entertainment purposes. Har, har, har. John, lay it on us. What's number one?
Well, we've got this new brand here called Boss. They've just landed. You may not have heard of them. No, not really. So I actually only have 4 pedals.
Brilliant.
But I don't know if one of them actually even counts. So I'm gonna tell you what they are.
Okay.
I might add in an extra one, which is one that I want.
Okay.
Okay. So just my tuner pedal, my little the Ibanez Big Mini.
Aha. Yes.
Which is a nifty little thing.
That one's kind of hot right now.
Yeah, it works well.
It's getting a little bit of play out there. People are talking about it because of the fact that it's small and it's got a pretty big readout on that, doesn't it?
It works very well for
Good
tuning guitars. So next up is the Sub and Up by TC Electronic. So I'm actually a bass player, and so I do quite enjoy a bit of octave.
Cool.
Yeah, so I play around with that.
There's a ton of octave pedals out there. So tell us about this one, why it's great and why you like it.
The Sub and Up, I mean, it has the octave down and an octave up, as well as 2 octaves down you can blend in. They're all separately controllable.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. 2 octaves down.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous on bass. It works well on guitar for that like blue box kind of. Well, it's actually got a few different modes. It's got their polyphonic, which tracks really well, and you can do chords and stuff, and it tracks all the notes.
Oh wow!
And it seems to work pretty flawlessly for that sort of stuff. And then it's got the classic mode, which is the monophonic, the older kind of style of octave.
Yeah.
And that glitches out a little bit, but it's got a fatter, kind of more organic sort of sound. It's got the tone print setting, which you can just do whatever you want with it and upload it. So I've got my tone print setting so that instead of like you can reassign all the knobs to do different things. Mm-hmm. So the 2 octaves down knob, I've actually assigned to blend in overdrive on the octave up.
Whoa.
And it's fully overdriven at the halfway point. And if you go further, it actually brings in a bit of chorus on that octave up.
That's pretty
now,
cool.
did you do that one or did you download that one? Because I know on TC Electronics you're able to download those too.
No, I did that one.
Okay.
So I just messed around with it and I was like, hey, this is really cool.
Are you just going to upload it for everyone else?
No.
Oh. I respect that. That's fine.
It's more that I don't know how than anything. But yeah, that thing's wicked. Like on guitar and bass, like
nice.
I really dig it.
It's a cool looking pedal too. It looks all like mod style.
Totally. Yeah. Next pedal is the Green Rhino by Way Huge.
Oh yeah.
I actually originally bought a Tumnus, the Wampler Tumnus, and loved it on guitar. Didn't like it on bass, and so I traded it for this, which sounds huge on bass because it's got that 100 hertz boost knob. You can dial back in all the bass that you lose, and it just sounds.
I like the Way Huge stuff. They're built crazy good. The cases are bulletproof. Big knobs, you're not trying to fiddle around like, well, where is everything? I can't see it. And yeah, that's a great pedal, man, for sure.
I dig it. And the last one on my board is the Super Puss delay from Way Huge, which is just the best delay pedal I've ever played, and I just love it.
Nice. Now, I'm glad you said that because it's funny. Everybody that does a delay pedal says it's the best delay pedal. So tell us why that's the best delay pedal.
I just love the grungy lo-fi repeats on it. Like you can dial in a bit of overdrive on those. Mm-hmm. It's got the vibrato that you can add in on the repeats. And I just love that sound.
Yeah.
A slightly gritty, warbly kind of vibe. And it's got the tap tempo. It just sounds lovely.
Now, I know that it has the notes.
Yeah, like the subdivisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's got 4 different ones, and you can actually set it to cycle through them automatically, and it's weird.
Ooh.
With a bit of trickery with the feedback knob, flicks through them, but if you hold it for a certain amount of time, it just does weird things with it.
Yeah.
But I don't play around with that much.
What I like about this is that it's got a lot of features, but they're easy to use, and they're not all hidden in teeny weeny itty bitty knobs and to get your fingers in. It was like, it's a big case. It's got tap tempo. It's got plenty of features, and it sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Those are solid pedals, man. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that board. You said that there was one that you are interested in getting.
Yeah. I think I would like a reverb pedal of some description. And the Alexander Sky-Fi is the one that's kind of caught my interest.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just got a nice, like, couple of sounds, nice sounds, but just the hold function of being able to put down a bed of reverb that just kind of hangs and you can play over top of it.
Where are they located? Is that?
I don't know.
North Carolina. We should talk to them.
Why not?
They're close. They're like dang near neighbors.
North Carolina.
I like that. Yeah, and they got cool looking stuff too.
Yeah.
The radical delay, the super radical delay. I've seen a lot written about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot of great stuff for sure. Well, yeah, we need to talk to them. Hey, if you're out there listening, Alexander Pedals, let's talk, man.
Yeah.
This is cool. So the Sky-Fi, yeah. Oh, it's a reverb and delay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've kind of often I'll use like delay just as like a really subtle bed as well.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to have a pedal that can just be set for that.
Now, would you be getting it in red or metal?
No, the red's sold out. I had a look.
The red's pretty cool.
It is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool, man. That's a great kind of board you have going on. Do you actually play those on a like a pedal train, or you just have them just on the ground, or how do you do your board?
Well, I have them on the ground at the moment, but I'd like to build a pedal board for them. Just a mini one. So.
Well, you're a builder of things.
Yeah, I know. And I have built a pedal board before, so I should be able to do it again. But that whole, how much time do I spend on myself in the workshop?
Well, you could sell them.
Yeah.
There you go. I get a cut, though, since I suggested
Okay. All right.
There it is.
You get a high five every time I sell one.
Right on. So, okay, hey, we are here to talk to you about your guitars and your craft. If we think back to many episodes ago, I mentioned on air my excitement because it was early on in the show, and it was great to be able to make connections with people. Those connections largely, started out here, and it kind of radiates, outward. And pretty soon we're getting listeners from different countries. As I mentioned, we got tagged in an Instagram post. When I started to listen, I couldn't figure out. I was like, why did we get tagged in this post? And I'd never heard of you. And I was watching you. I believe you were ebonizing some wood, which I thought was really fascinating. And I was like, oh wow, he's ebonizing wood. How does he do that? That's really cool. And as I began to listen, I was like, I heard my voice in the background, which was so totally surreal to listen to. It was unexpected and surreal, and it was just a really neat moment early on in the show. I remember telling everybody about that, and the fact that you were from Tasmania, which was like, it was a freak factor, and I ran with it, and it was exciting. Since then, I started paying much closer attention to what you do, and I think you've got a great social channel, specifically on Instagram. It's really neat to watch you bring things to life. So I had to have you on as a guest and see what it was all about. So anyhow, John, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in this craft? What prompted you?
Shivers. So, I mean, I've always enjoyed pulling things apart. That's just who I am as a person. I just got to know how things work. Quite happy to wreck things in the pursuit of figuring out how they work. So that's kind of where I started as a kid.
Did you get in trouble? Did you get in trouble for doing that like I did?
Yeah.
Yeah. I really made my brothers mad. I took their stuff apart to see what it looked like.
Well, it's important to the learning process. So yeah, I mean, mum played guitar and piano, and there's always music in the house. So I just gravitated towards playing guitar at a pretty young age. Pretty soon, I think I just got interested in, how they worked, and then figuring out how to build them. I learned a bit of woodwork stuff from my granddad, and then through high school and college, that's all I wanted to do was just build guitars and guitar-related stuff, pedals and all sorts of stuff. And then when I left college, I went and learned furniture making to just get better woodworking skills. And then I ended up working in a music retail store for 7 years, I think. Just doing repairs, selling guitars, all that stuff, and then eventually,
when you were in that shop and you're doing repairs, can you explain just a little bit about some of the things that you took notice of?
Yeah, definitely. I always paid attention to what people were doing, whether it was the good or the bad, and I think that all that the little stuff, I think I definitely paid attention to, and it stuck with me. What I liked, what worked, and what didn't work. So I always kind of draw on that.
There's a couple standard kind of ways that guitars are built. You've got semi-hollow bodies, you got solid bodies, set necks, bolt-on necks, angled headstocks, straight heads. So if you're taking those apart and fixing them, were there any that piqued your curiosity more than others, or that you enjoyed working on more than others?
I think I enjoyed working on the Fenders more than anything, just because of how serviceable they were.
Right.
They're just because you can pull them apart completely, relatively easily. It just made sense that was a good idea to make them as easily serviceable as possible. We didn't get much quirky stuff through. Most of it was pretty standard. So
Did you have a lot of experience with semi-hollows and stuff, or was it mostly solids?
Mostly solids.
I guess I'm asking because I love semi-hollow.
Yeah, same.
Changing pots is not fun on semi-hollow.
No.
I try to ask somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
Like you.
Yeah. It's always a bit of a
challenge.
Yeah. Totally.
Do you remember the first guitar that you, I guess, for lack of better terms, hot rodded?
Yeah, in college. College was when I first got serious about guitar. Up until then, I'd been playing bass, and I worked a summer job and got my first Strat, which was one of the Highway 1 Strats, and that thing just got modded to death. Not to death, it's still alive, but I just pushed it as far as I could.
Did you wear out the pickguard screw holes on the body?
Yep.
I'm changing it around. Yep.
So what kind of things were you doing with that? How far did you experiment?
Most of it was just lots of little tweaks, going as far as stripping the paint off the bottom of the neck heel so that it made full contact with the neck pocket. At one stage, it only had 2 pickups and 1 knob in it. Yeah, just a volume, and then just a 3-way switch.
Though, right? Did you have a switch?
Yeah, 3-way.
Yeah, okay.
And it was just the neck in the middle because that's all I ever used. And I just decided that everything else was just sucking out my tone, so I got rid of it.
At what point did you say, hey, man, I think I'm just going to go with the bass? Because you said you're mostly a bass player, right?
Yeah, bass was grade 6, I think. That's when I kind of got into that.
What really inspired the style that you're doing now?
I have no idea. I love studying furniture. It's all about, nice wood, lines, angles, all that sort of stuff, and then mash that with the guitar world, and particularly my love of, you know, the offset guitar, Jazz Masters and Jags and stuff. And everything else just kind of happened as an experiment, really. I was kind of like, I wonder what would happen if I did this. You know, what would it look like? What would it feel like as a guitar? And it just kind of, it all just fell out of somewhere. And I don't really know. To be honest, a lot of it was just an experiment and people liked it. And so I've just stuck with it.
You just kept going. Yeah. It looks like you have a pretty robust shop there from the pictures that I've seen. That I'm sure that takes a while to kind of accumulate. So production-wise, how long have you been actually at it?
Making guitars probably 3 years.
Wow, that's
just
it?
In that little shop.
New kid on the block.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It doesn't look like it, you know, for what that's worth.
Yeah, it all looks pretty good, man.
So you have 3 major body styles that you work with. Do you want to tell us about those?
Yeah, so the Solomon, which is kind of where it started. Actually, no, it's not where it started. But it's been the one that has got the most attention. And that's like an offset, like a Jazz Master. And that's usually a thin line. So it's got a chambered body and the signature swoop F-hole, which is kind of hard to explain, but
it is. It's
nice. It's nice to look at.
Yeah, let's spend a little bit of let's get back to that. Wait, no, let's spend time on it now because it's a cool thing. So on the Solomon, you've got an offset body, but it's not. You know, I know you mentioned a Jag, but it's almost more like a telly than anything else. And when you're looking at it, except for the body style, just in the sense that you don't have nearly as many switches as a Jag, and you've only got 2 pickups in it. But you do different configurations for that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
whatever people want.
The chamber the chamber that you were talking about, you know, typically on a thin line you see an F hole or something like that on the top of the body. But what grabbed my eye, and I'm sure what grabs most people's eye when they're seeing it, is yours is up on the front hip where you got like the arm cut out. The arm cut out way there. And it is hard to explain. I'm stumbling over my words. I'm trying to explain something that you don't see very often, and it's on a curve. It's in a very odd place.
It is, but it works.
Yeah, it does. And is that that's a 2-piece body then? Yes. Yeah.
So it's got a separate cap that goes over the body.
Right. So maybe one of the best ways to explain it is, you know, the back side of the guitar has a silhouette, but in this particular area, the top cap has a narrower silhouette and a place which allows for this space to happen on the outline of the guitar, not on the flat part where the F typically is. So right where you would have like the belly cut or you know the forearm bevel is where this hole is, and it's beautiful to look at, and it's super unique, and I'm sure it sounds really cool because really the projection is probably heading up towards you. Any kind of resonance you're able to hear better, I would imagine. And is that the only chamber, or is it?
Yeah, so the bottom half is chambered completely as well.
This is a 2-piece neck, a bolt-on?
Yeah, it is indeed.
Nice. Yeah, so you're picking up your Fender stuff and you know, the serviceable aspect of it.
And I think just for ease of construction, it makes sense. And tone wise, I think I've just always, as to whether there is a significant difference, I just like the way they work.
Nice.
Have you experimented with neck throughs?
Nope. It's on the list of things to do, but at the moment I'm not going to.
Okay.
Yeah. Doing
it well. Keep it going. So then you have the you can pronounce that for me.
Arelli,
yes.
Yeah, which is the single cut. It's kind of like, it was actually taken from a parlor guitar shape. I've always loved parlor guitars, acoustic guitars. I just love the curves and the proportions. So I thought, well, what would it look like if I made an electric guitar from that? And that's it. Yeah, and it's got that kind of down electro vibe on the cutaway.
One of the things that we talked about earlier on the phone was that you mentioned that it's got, this Jaguar kind of inspiration. And then you said it's got kind of a, it could have a down electro connotation. And as we get into the next one, I'm sure there's a model that we can call out as somewhat of a throwback. But your guitars are not blatantly retro looking at all. They look very, very modern, but not overly. You're sitting in this really interesting zone of, I can see what that resembles, and therefore it's semi-familiar. But it doesn't. You didn't just say, "Oh, this is my version of a Dan Electro," or "This is my version of a Jaguar." You've pushed it farther to be a little bit more unique and more signature. That's tough to do. We've had a couple other people that have achieved that, in my opinion, on the show, and maybe that's what catches my eye and why I reach out to these people. But yours on. So back to the Orelli real quick. So I think what's interesting on that is that you've got a trapeze tail on that.
Piece,
Yeah.
On a solid body, which is really kind of cool. You don't see that often.
Yeah, I mean, that all plays into, the string feel and I guess my love of offsets. You've got that extra string length behind the bridge.
Yeah.
To play with, whether it's, you're actually playing it or it's just adding a bit of something else.
Yeah, I believe... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, I was going to say, I believe the first Les Pauls that came out in the early mid-50s had the trapeze.
Mm-hmm.
It's like combined with their tail, the actual bridge piece as well. That was a bit of a weird one.
And let's see. So this one you've got, it's got the same headstock as the Solomon. I think headstocks would be a really tough thing to work out because there's so many, that's your signature thing. That's what's, at least in the courts, that's what they've deemed as signature. So trying to find your own in a sea of luthiers has got to be really tricky and still make it very functional, beautiful, and I don't envy that.
Oh man, I spent months on that, just trying to figure out, getting something to look good that still has like straight string pull. That thing haunted me for a while.
Yeah,
I like how it looks because it's offset, but yet the string pull is still straight. That's pretty clever. I like that.
So as we're explaining this, the headstock that we're looking at, it's diamond-esque, like an elongated diamond with a slight offset, and a little sort of hook at the top. The tuning keys are offset, so think of bricks. Offset from each other, so it's a really nice headstock. It's good proportions and stuff. We're going to examine the living daylights out of this thing. So let's see. Let's go to the Gideon.
Yeah, the Gideon. So that was actually my first design. Mm-hmm. So the first guitar that I built was actually just a straight off Mustang copy, in terms of the shape. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I kind of wanted to skew it a little bit. So it is kind of a Mustang. It's got similar-ish kind of horns, but it is offset a little bit more. And up until now, it's kind of been a solid body, but I've just done the first thin line one with the swoop.
With the cutout, yeah.
Yeah, so that relic one I posted a couple of days ago.
Right.
That one is the first one with the swoop.
And that one, so, if you go to your site, not if you go to your site, but if people who are listening go to the site and they check it out, these are all aesthetically very similar in so much as that you're showing them in sort of a natural finish, a darker natural finish, almost a walnut. Can you talk to us about, I think one of the things that I'm somewhat fascinated by is where people are making choices about their materials. So, we had Frank Dimel on a little bit ago, and we talked about the woods that he was using and where he was getting them, and was he using native woods and etc. And so, I know very little about what Tasmania has to offer as far as wood goes, but I'm assuming it's probably more efficient for you to start there. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, totally. I guess the more common species that people associate with Tasmania is Tasmanian blackwood, which is a pretty close cousin to Hawaiian koa, and pretty similar in looks and other properties. And it's been used in furniture for a long time. It's a beautiful timber.
Tasmanian blackwood.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Blackheart sassafras is probably another one.
That's
some of the bigger companies.
Name for wood. Like I want to have a guitar. I was like, what's that made of? Black-hearted sassafras. It just sounds cool. Sounds like you got something that's unique.
Sassafras.
Yeah. So that timber is naturally like quite a creamy color, and pretty consistent in its color. But the Blackheart part of it, it just stains the wood black, brown, darker colors, and it's quite the creamy colored and the these striking figurings through the wood. That's actually a bacterial disease that the wood gets. So it's kind of like spalted maple, but the spalting is actually fungal and it rots the wood, whereas this is bacterial. It doesn't rot the wood; it just stains it. So it's still
perfectly fine, right?
Yeah, it's got integrity. It just looks amazing.
That's cool. And then you said let's see, the first wood. We're gonna memorize these. Blackwood. So there's blackwood, and then there's black-hearted sassafras.
Yeah,
okay.
And there's a few other timbers like celery top pine, which is quite a hard pine, but really really nice to work with, and Tasmanian myrtle, which is different to the myrtle that you guys have over there. It's quite a rich pink kind of color. It's actually a beech, I think. Like it's very close to maple to work with, and in terms of density as well.
Okay.
And then Huon pine is probably the other pretty recognizable species of timber that we have here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty highly regarded, especially in the furniture world, because you can't harvest it anymore. You just salvage it. So
okay, so that's a salvage wood then.
Yeah, but like they spent a long time harvesting it to death in the lower half of the state, and they just floated down the rivers, and a lot of it just sank. And it just pops up every now and then. All the stuff that sank just pops up, and people find it and mill it up and sell it.
So that brings another question. I know something that's really popular right now, maybe more so in the bass world, with so many colored woods, exotic woods, etc. Aquatic finds, timber that's been in rivers for 75 years, versus something that's just been cut down and dried, never seeing water. Are the woods that you're using? How does that factor in?
The woods that I'm using at the moment, I've just sourced, and they're just, fallen trees.
Okay.
Nothing particularly special. Like I've just been working through a big pallet of blackwood for the last couple of years. So, I've just finished that off, so now I'm looking for other sources. But there's a company here called Hydro Wood, and they have established an operation on one of the hydro dams down the west coast of Tasmania. So this was a lake that was dammed, and it grew in size and flooded some of the surrounding forest. So at the moment they're floating around on a barge with a special tree grabber, basically, and they're harvesting this forest that's underwater.
That's crazy.
It's been underwater for 50 years or something, and they're pulling out all that timber that is kind of hard to get, like Huon pine and celery top, the sassafras, all the species that people want. they're harvesting it, and it's got a really cool story, and it's good timber.
Do you think that has much tonal difference? Something that's been submerged for a long time versus something that hasn't?
I don't know. I mean, my pop told me that when they were younger, when they chopped down a tree, they would put it in the creek and it'd flush out all the sap. Oh. And then they'd pull it out and it would dry quicker. So I don't know whether the removal of that sap or those resins makes the timber respond differently, but it certainly helps it dry quicker.
Super interesting. I didn't know that at all.
Yeah,
that's cool. What are you using for our? So your bodies are black wood. What are you using for the neck?
Roasted maple.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, it is. It smells like maple syrup every time I work on the necks. It's great.
Yummy.
That's making me hungry.
Yeah. So that stuff is awesome. Like every neck I've made from it has barely moved. It is just super stable.
And good figuring in it, right?
Yeah, it just looks really nice. It's got that vintage tint to it without having to put, tints on it. Yeah. So, it just looks really nice under a coat of oil or shellac or something. Mm-hmm. But super stable. I really dig using it.
Your fretboards. This is a big topic right now. Like what people are using in fretboards.
Oh man, when that law came in, when the new restrictions came in, I had one guitar that was due to be shipped out to the States, and I hadn't quite finished it, and we were going on holidays, but I wouldn't be back until after the law had come in, and I didn't have any certification for it. I had a rosewood board. And I was just freaking out. So I had to just push that one through like super quick just so I could get it to the States before the restrictions came in. And since then, I've just stopped using rosewood. Like it's just hard to get here. It just costs a bomb when you can get it. And there are plenty of other good alternatives. I like using ebony. That's quite nice, but that's heading a similar way. So I'll probably stop using that.
For sure.
Really interested in the Blackwood Tech stuff, which a couple of other luthiers I pay attention to have been using it. And that's interesting because it's actually made from radiata pine, which is the same stuff that we get at the hardware store here, but it's just treated in such a way that I don't know what they do to it, but it goes hard, it goes quite stable and black or brown, depending on what you buy. As a rosewood alternative, I've been using another native timber called Gidgee, which is from it's an outback timber, so it doesn't grow big. It still grows quite small, but quite dense. Apparently it's the third hardest timber in the world.
Whoa! And what's it called again? Gidgee?
Gidgee, yeah.
How do you spell that?
Gidgee. But it's actually a close relative of blackwood. Tasmanian blackwood.
So
it's the same family.
Is dense as you say it is? Does it? Do you go through more saw blades?
No, it's quite nice to work with. It's difficult to hand plane, but I haven't had any issues with slotting it. But it's really stable as well, which is the other thing that I like. Maybe I don't know. Oh. It's got a pretty glassy tap tone. Like you get the board and you tap it, and it's quite a glassy, dense kind of sound. But it's sustainable, which is the thing that I like about it. Right. I buy it just from a one-man operation. He just goes out, harvests some timber, come back, mills it up and dries it, and I can pretty much just tell him exactly what I want in terms of how it's cut and whether it's got little bits of inclusion in it or figure.
Well, I think that's kind of special to be able to have a guitar that's got wood from one particular place in the world, generally, because that you said that is endemic to Australia, but still Australian Tasmanian wood, just like that's a pretty unique thing in the guitar world. I think just the same as Frank was talking about some of the local things that he's got coming out of Germany. It's like, I like that idea of the local aspect. Obviously, I mean, that our show focuses a lot on that. And whenever you're able to say, this is special because I know I've spoken with the actual person who's made it. The actual thing that it's been made out of only is, native to this area. It's like that's a great provenance for a hand built piece. When you're looking at these, you really don't do paint.
No.
You let the wood do its thing.
Yeah, and I mean that's really just stems from the amount of space I have in my shop. I don't have enough space to build guitars, let alone paint them. Like, it's a pretty small shop. So putting in a spray booth is just not going to happen.
Right.
And I would prefer to work with something that doesn't kill me.
Yeah.
So natural oils fit the bill. They protect the guitar. And most of the wood just wants to be seen. So the oil just does the job.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, you're working with wood that, like you said, it does want to be seen with a nice, just even a standard black pick guard. It's like that's that aesthetic that we were talking about that was sort of like you're mixing minimal, you're mixing figured, you're mixing throwback, you're mixing, sort of modern. Those things are building quite a nice harmony in the design. I also I love the wide range in the guitar world of what necks look like as far as inlay or non-inlay. And I on the Solomon, you have one dot.
Right.
There's actually,
on 12.
they do actually. So all the renders that are on the website, they've all got one dot just because I'm lazy and I haven't put the rest of them in.
Well, there it is, folks.
But in the real world, when I actually build them, they do have a row of quite thin dots.
Uh-huh.
So most standard dots are like 6 millimeters or something, like a quarter inch.
Uh-huh.
All my dots are like 3 millimeters, and they run along the top edge of the fingerboard.
Yeah. I like that. I'm a fan of that.
Still minimalist and still out of the way, but one dot is a bit extreme.
I would like to do one at some point because my guitar eyes are not maybe what they used to be, but like Billy Sheehan's bass, having inlay that is looks like that, where I'm like, there they are, I can see them.
Yep.
That'd be pretty cool. I like that. So we went through what you're doing right now. What is your near future plans? Are you just going to, stay the path? Are you growing? You got new things that you're introducing?
So I'm currently working on a new model, and it is intended to be the flagship. So it's actually a variation on the Gideon. So I'm planning on, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the Gideon, whether to keep it or drop it. But it's got the same horns, but it's a bit more offset. But I'm actually going with a bent sides on this one. So I'm kind of gearing up to be able to bend the sides. Instead of having a solid block that I chamber out, I'm going to bend the sides and then add in all those little extra pieces, like on where the swoop is, add a little bit extra wood there to fill out that shape. And then just have a center block, like a 335, and then a top and a back, and move towards having that as kind of my construction style for the thin line stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's kind of what I'm working on at the moment. The idea of it is that I kind of wanted one shape that I can do a bit more variation, like just completely change how it looks just by different pick guard styles and different pickup layouts, the options of the two different headstocks, that sort of thing. And this shape just seems to be working really well for that. And it's kind of where I want to head, is instead of having lots of different models, really pare them back and just have one or two, but, allowing people to just pick details to really customize the guitar. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at the moment and where I'm heading. Really, my focus has always been on hand tools. I think the size of my shop dictates that I can't have lots of machines, so I've got the bare minimum, and the rest I just do by hand because it's less messy, doesn't make as much dust, and I really enjoy it. Heading, as I get skills in hand tools, I'm, transferring machine work over to hand tool work. And eventually it's just going to be hand tool made. So that's my passion. That's what I really dig. And oftentimes it's just as quick to do it by hand than it is to do with a machine, and less dangerous.
Yeah, well, and then you got a little bit more story there too. For those who are, we're not doing these justice. We're talking about as much as we can, design and aesthetic and what's going into these. But I would encourage everyone to make sure they check out the Instagram, which is
JP_GW.
JP_GW. And you will immediately probably fall in love with some of the work that he's showing here. It's just really cool to see, these things built by hand and the care that goes into them. And when you go and look at it on Instagram, you're like, oh my gosh, that's the wood. That right there, that looks amazing. And so you definitely need to go check out the Instagram and what this is all about, because it's some pretty beautiful stuff. And I love when I think you got the Bigsby on
Solomon.
Yeah, on the Solomon with oh man, that's beautiful.
That's a
that
tasty
just looks
guitar.
awesome.
Yeah,
big giant piece of hardware on a beautiful piece of wood.
There it is.
Can't beat that. Really glad that we've been able to talk to you, because you've kind of been a bit of inspiration for me personally, anyways. Not necessarily through your guitars, though I greatly appreciate them, but you were evidence of, hey, there's somebody out there who's picking up what we're laying down, and that's been a source of inspiration for me personally, and I want to thank you for that. So let's see. Let's move on to our Would You Rather.
Would you rather?
And thank you, Jared, for those sultry sounds of the Would You Rather. Okay, this week we are picking between two pedals that people either love or hate.
Right.
I think they're the kind of pedals that you're like, yeah, I need one of these. And then you get one of these and you go like, what am I going to use this for?
Right.
to a certain degree. Yeah. I mean, they're staples in the guitar world, and they certainly have their place. I think most people, when they get them, it's a little tough to figure out because they are so radical in their sound, and trying to figure out how to use it, selectively or not, so that it sounds like you don't know how to use your equipment, is kind of a challenge with these. At least in the past, for me, it has been. So that's where this is stemming from. So our two choices are the Boss BF series, let's say the BF3, because that's one of the newer ones. And that is a flanger, the Boss flanger. Or the classic MXR Phase 90 phaser pedal with one knob, and a Boss with a bunch more knobs. So, Jared, what are you doing?
Flanger all the way.
Okay. Is that because it's purple?
No. That's because I actually did use this. I had an original band back in the mid 90s when I was a teenager, and it was probably one of my favorite bands I'd ever been in, because we were young and we had creative minds, and I think I used a flanger in about 3 or 4 out of the 10 songs, 15 songs we had.
Oh my gosh.
That. So I got I got a lot of use out of the flanger. I did. I mean, laugh at me if you will, but
go ahead and laugh at me, bro.
Yeah, do it, man. But I loved it, man. I found a lot of use for it, and nice. the first flanger I ever had, it was actually built into an old PV, some old PV amp. I don't even remember what it was, because I had several of them with the jagged emblem on the front.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going flanger all the way.
Okay. A lot of knobs on there, man.
Yep.
A lot of functionality.
The more the better.
All right, John, what are you doing?
I'll go phaser.
There you go.
Just phaser on bass is pretty sweet. So yeah, that's what I'd do.
I'm gonna go phaser too, because the funny thing is I've actually knocked this pedal in the past because it's one of those pedals that's just like, if it's on, that's kind of the only thing you hear. It's just like there's no, it's just a rate knob.
Right.
So it's like, you want it slow or you want it fast.
Right.
But the Phase 90 is a classic pedal. And to be honest, like that Boss pedal gives me anxiety because it's just, I mean, you need a degree to work with that thing. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but
Right.
there's a lot of functionality on that, and I don't know that I would have the need for all of that. So I'm gonna go the Phase 90, the classic one. So there we go. That was our show. We are super stoked that you guys have hung out and listened to it with us. We've listened to it all. We hope you do. And I just want to make sure that we call out Tom Barazin. If I'm saying this wrong, Tom, you gotta let me know. Don't let me keep butchering your name. For his executive producer role as a supporter through Patreon.
Thank you,
Thank
Tom.
you very much. And to those who will continue to support, we will add your names and all the other cool goodies you can get if you go there and check it out at patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs. And John, tell them where they can find you all across the interwebs.
So website is jp-gw.com. Instagram is jp_GW, and Facebook is JPGW Taz.
JPW Taz.
JPGW Taz.
JPG what?
Yeah, what's the matter with you? Bewitched or something?
JPGW Taz.
Yeah.
Got it right. All right, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. You are 14 hours, I believe, different than
future.
us. You are in the future. You are in tomorrow. Is tomorrow
Yes,
good?
Correct. It's pretty good. It's a bit cold, but
Awesome. I can't wait to wake up to that.
Right.
All right, man. We're going to let you go. Thank you, everyone. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Yep.
And make sure that you subscribe.
Yeah.
Long Thurston.
Launceston.
Lon Thurston.
Ceston with a
Seston.
Launceston.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs to help keep this podcast ad-free and ensure that we keep bringing you the best show we can. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.